Welcome to the All Things Wildfire podcast, where we delve into the latest trends and hot topics in protecting properties against wildfire. So sit back, relax, and join us as we arm you against disaster.
All right. Welcome, guys, to another session of All Things Wildfire. Today, Diane Delaney gets to allow us, her presence, to be able to get some more wisdom on how we're going to work with insurance. And look, guys, I'll tell you, Diane, if you don't know her, you're going to want to look her up for sure. And I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself and kind of let you know what she does. But this woman is a wealth of knowledge. And for those of you that are in the insurance world, many of you may know her, but those of you that don't, you're going to want to get to know her. And for those listeners that don't know who she is at all, look her up, because the insurance landscape, my friends, is absolutely changing. It's changed from 6 months ago. It's changed from 3 months ago. It will continue to evolve and to change. And Diane is on the cutting edge of how we can stay ahead of these changes to benefit us as homeowners, right? And to benefit these people that are selling insurance as our broker listeners attend. So Diane, let me just have you introduce yourself.
Sure. And thank you for that introduction, OP. But Diane Delaney, I'm the CEO and Executive Director of the Private Risk Management Association, which in our industry is known as PRMA. And I have the fortunate job where we bring together independent agents and our high net worth insurance carriers and our service providers to help uplift the category of how are we really selling and taking care of successful families and individuals, especially when it comes to their personal lines insurance needs.
Love it. And Diane, look, let's talk about this, because PRMA has a significant piece in the market with regards to training. And right now, with things that have changed so much, like there's a hunger, if you will. There's a hunger for people to want to learn about how can I position myself as a broker to sell insurance. And really quick, I'll use this analogy that we spoke about earlier. Is I see it as when you're a realtor, right, and you're selling homes and the market's hot, like everyone becomes a realtor and everyone's like, let me sell you a house and let me sell you as a house, and they're making money and they're getting rich. But when times get tough, then these people disappear and only the quality people stick around, and those quality people have to almost re-engage and say, okay, what's happening now? What's important? What should I learn? How should I communicate? How can I deliver more value? And I feel like that's kind of happening now in our insurance industry. Would you tend to agree or disagree, or what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why there's no better time to have an association like PRMA, where it's a space when so much is changing so rapidly, as you said. How could you keep track of it all? How do you know where to go for industry experts? And that's what we love doing. Is we know that there's a lack of understanding when it comes to risk management needs or reinsurance or E&S. And we source the subject matter experts and service providers to provide that education on a number of different topics throughout the year. And it's constantly evolving, but it's a place you have to have the ability, competitiveness aside, to collaborate with other people. We cannot be successful as an industry if we just kept to ourselves.
Wow, you know what? That's a good point. Competitiveness aside, man, that's tough though. You know, as a a vendor myself, when I hear, hey, it's better to collaborate with your competition, it's a little tough to hear, but it's true. Like right now we need to collaborate, because there is a major crisis, and I don't see, maybe you do, but I don't see the answers coming quick enough. What you hear is State Farm is like, hey, by the way, here's the list of all the zip codes that we're about to exit in California, right? And we all received that list, and I'm on that list. So next year, February, State Farm's going to likely drop me, and I'll end up going to market. But I think right now we all need to collaborate in order to figure out what the next steps are, because the homeowners need it. The homeowners, the buyers, are going to need the education. And so speaking of that, I attended one of your webinars.
Yeah.
I don't recall the title, but I thought it was really like on point, and you shared your own personal experience, which I thought was so appropriate in the example that you gave. Would you mind sharing that again now?
Sure. And really the basis of that webinar was around clients are not going to buy solutions to problems they do not have or think they have. And clients are generally willing to exchange money for something of equal or greater value. So it is our job in this industry when working with clients and insureds to understand what is valuable to them, what keeps them up at night, what concerns do they have. And whenever any of us are providing a solution, we have to really tailor that solution to the concerns the client said they had. And the point I was making in that webinar, even for those that were not on it, obviously listening to this podcast, I touched upon how I had needed to switch my financial planner recently. And the financial planner didn't just meet me for 20 minutes and then throw together a solution for me, but over a couple of phone calls, he learned about really what does my life look like now? Where is it going over the next couple of years? What's important to me? What keeps me up at night? And when I met with him to talk about solutions, next step, one of the things he did with me is he gave me a 1-sheet paper, and it was so simple. It was bulleted of the concerns I said I had. And I loved it so much because this is what I've pushed in our industry is when we put a solution in front of a potential insured, you have to remind them that you've tailored the solution to what they said their concerns were, so that when you are going over those solutions, it becomes less of a price discussion and more about here's what you said concerns you. This is what we're doing about it. The cost almost becomes irrelevant. No one likes to pay 100% more for their insurance coverage. That I understand. But in the industry that we're dealing with today, it's understanding that these changes are going to happen, especially if you're in wildfire prone areas or any part of the country at this point.
Yeah. Look, I love that. And it's so, you know, it it's very simple, but at the same time, I think we have to, all of us, right? Insurance broker, anyone selling policies and anyone selling anything, we have to relearn how to sell in the current environment. And what I love about what you just shared is this person was listening, right? These listening skills we have to rehone these listening skills, because there are times where I've heard brokers say, "Oh, hey, Mr. Smith, I was able to get you this because this has the lowest deductible, but the problem is you're going to have this, this, or that." And then Mr. Smith is like, "What? The lower deductible is not a concern to me." Like, right? And so
Correct.
the people are selling from their perspective, I think, too often, when
Right.
really, if they're listening and taking notes and spending time, man, they could really make the sale more impactful and close more deals that way. So I love that. I love that example.
And I saw a quote the other day and I thought it was perfect. And it said, we often listen to reply. Like, and we'll do that now. Somebody will be sharing a story and we listen like, oh, I have a story that's going to relate. And that's what I'm going to share with you. But instead, we should be listening to learn. Like, I need to not focus on what am I going to say next to OP's comment, but I'm learning more about what is OP seeing, what's OP struggling with. But as I think humans, we are ingrained in a conversation to try and relate with the person. And instead, we're so focused on how we're going to relate in our next comment or question, as opposed to really learning about what the client said kept them up at night.
So, I love that. I just wrote that down. You said, listen to learn, not to reply.
Correct.
And I think too, people listen to reply and people listen to sell. Like, hey, I'm going to listen. Yep, I'm going to close you on this thing, or I'm going to sell you this thing. When the reality, I think, especially now, the selling cycle probably needs a step or two more for the
Yes.
listening piece. And really, instead of trying to close the deal in two phone calls, it should be 3 or 4, but very just planned out and structurally set up where it's like, here's the road I'm going to take this person through. And more of it is going to be not me telling them, but me listening to, so that way I can go to the underwriters and say, hey, these are the things that are important. Please don't forget to address these things. Right. So I think that's critical. I love that.
And if you think about it, OP, next year, insurance prices, I'm just speculating, could probably go up. Not everywhere, but like everything is taking inflation. So do not quote me on this if anyone's listening. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
You're the one holding the lever, okay? We all know that.
Right. yeah, changing the rights here. But if we assume that could happen at any point in anything that we're purchasing, if you're the independent agent who is working with the insured, if every single year you had to overcome the price objection and it's going up, would it not help you if in each of those renewals you were going in with, let's revisit these concerns we talked about last year and what has changed and what hasn't? That makes it easier. Now, that's also easier said than done. I'd rather tell people how to do their job than to actually do it, because the brokers have a tough job in front of them in today's environment.
Boom. So important. It's relational, but so worth it, and really interesting how it's super simple. It's more work because that's the environment that we're in now, but it's good work, especially if the renewal's coming and you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, let's just circle back. Are these things still important to you? Last year, it was boom, boom, boom. And the fact that you listen like that, they're like, yeah, this is my lady. This is my guy. They got me. They have my best interest in mind. I really do appreciate that.
Exactly.
So good. Now, let's talk about technology. And, earlier I remember it was probably about, 10 years ago, we were going into brokers' offices and, the brokers that are on the claim side of handling claims. And we were actually pulling data from McKinsey talking about how the claims experience is significant and how, if a broker stays involved, it's better experience. But then also some of the data that we were able to get is that the generation continues to evolve, meaning that they're actually buying more and more insurance online. And so, this was, one of those things that's like, hey, everything's changing. You have to be more online, et cetera. Now, as the times change right now, you and I were just talking earlier about, if you have a high net worth client, for example, or someone who cares about risk, because not all homeowners really care too much about risk. Sometimes they see it as a nuisance, as a requirement that I have to have. They check the box and then they never look at their policy ever until they have a claim. But for the people that really see this as a tool to protect themselves and protect their contents, their art, their jewelry, their downside of liability, people that spend time thinking about this, I think technology is good, but I think technology is changing from the standpoint of right now, I'm not going to buy stuff online and just say, yep, I'm going to buy the coverage. I'm going to want to talk to somebody and say, hey, please talk to me, give me a phone call back so we can have these discussions so you can learn what I need versus what the computer's going to spit out. What are your thoughts on tech?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think, in our industry, technology has not, we've been a bit archaic, and I think that's going to start to change. But it's always been this outstanding question of, if a lot of things move online, what does that mean for a role of a broker? And you hit the nail on the head with saying, regardless, even middle market to high net worth, we all have needs or questions that need to be answered, and technology can't always do that for us. And I don't think we have to fear technology replacing anyone's role. However, it's enhancing it. And it's how are we going to, as an industry, embrace technology from a number of different areas. One is, if we look at the tools that exist today, so a broker spending less time inputting the mundane information such as roof type and how far it is to a fire hydrant for the underwriter, they can focus more time on having those value-driven discussions with the insured. From a risk management standpoint, it's a lot of the new products
More
that are
people
coming to
need to
this.
embrace.
Right. The products that are coming into our space are allowing technology to determine, how quickly is a wildfire approaching. Even we were talking about leak detection earlier. I can control that from my phone. That's a huge win in our industry. So I think we're going to, really look at technology from a number of different facets of how it's going to help the industry advance, not hurt it.
Boom. Agreed. Now, while we're on that topic of risk and water shutoff devices and wildfire prevention and even seismic earthquake valves, the when the broker submits a file of a client and says, "Hey, here's everything the customer has done." What are the underwriters looking for, and does the homeowner get a significant credit, or are they looked at more positively if they've done some risk management to their home?
Yeah. While I can never pretend to know what an underwriter's main job is, and I give them so much credit for what they're doing, and they can speak to this much better than I can, to put it in general terms, is in today's time, we do need the role of the insured to change and for them to be proactive in making sure these common claims that are happening, like water losses inside the home, are not happening. Because the last thing you want is to be living in a catastrophe prone area with 2 water claims on the home that could have easily been prevented. So there's no detriment for any insurer to take risk management steps just solely based on the fact if they couldn't access the same type of insurance coverage they've had before, they're at least going to decrease the amount of impact a claim would have on their home because they took these protective measures.
And I think that for us, this is a message we've been really delivering to as many people as possible is do your part in minimizing your own risk so that way you have better chances, your chances increase of being insurable. So, we're right on track there. Diane, let me ask you, you have, let's talk a little bit about your experience, right? Because we talk about technology, but you started a long time ago with a little bit of out of college, they ask you to kind of work a little bit on tech, but can you kind of explain what was happening there and how you got involved with the insurance world?
Yeah, like most of us, it was, you're graduating from college and you need a job.
Yeah.
And I applied for a job at AIG in the training department. So I never even, when I went to the training world of AIG, it was outside of the insurance space of it. So I wasn't learning about insurance. I was learning how to teach people to present. And very quickly, within 8 months of being on board at 21 years old, I was traveling the US, training people on how to deliver presentations. Fast forward several years, I get connected with Private Client Group within AIG, and they asked me to help build out a producer school, which, again, I had no business. Well, not that I did. I mean, I made a successful career of it. But at now 23 years old, if you don't work in insurance, and I told you this earlier, being asked to run a producer school, I heard this term producer and that was someone's job. I was thinking about people who made movies.
Let's go.
Not people who sold insurance. So
I love
absolutely, I'll teach these producers on set on how to present. So rule number 1, ask questions.
Exactly.
Sounded great. I took it. And then I realized my first day at Private Client Group, I met with these producers from Marsh and Aon and Willis, and I realized they are selling insurance to high net worth clients. So I had to learn quickly.
You did not meet at NBC studio or nothing like that. So that was your first clue.
No. So 20 years later, here I am, still working with producers that do not make movies.
I love it. So now in your position at PRMA, like what's the passion? What's the mission of PRMA? Now I'm going to say this year, because with the economy changing, with the industry changing, I feel like our missions and our values and our visions really begin to tweak a little bit based on what's happening currently in the market. But what would you say is the vision for PRMA for the next 12 months?
Yeah, and our mission always goes back to making sure we're equipping the risk management professionals in this space who service successful families and individuals have the tools to do so. And the tools that we give them each year is what shifts. And what I get excited about in this role is that it's an open slate. I have to listen to the industry. I have to listen to the surveys we give our membership. We also we have something that's called an all-member forum. So a broker can go on and post a question to the group. Let's say it's, they're trying to find a private aviation solution. We monitor all these things and we say, okay, we see a gap here. And I have all these committees within PRMA. We'll go back to the education committee and say, okay, you work on a broker side, you work on a carrier. We're thinking about these 3 core topics, these 4 core topics over the next quarter. What do we think? And then I get to source the subject matter expert, or my team sources them on what education are we offering. Are we doing a membership-wide webinar, fireside chat? And then we have our 18 different chapters across the US who are doing more of their regional events. So going back to what you said earlier, having competitors come together, that's the fun part of my role. And it's such a rewarding piece to see of planning for summit or planning an educational piece. I have these competitors sitting at the table who put their company differences aside and focus on what's best for the industry. And I think that's what makes us really unique and really special.
I love it. And so now that we're on the topic, let's talk about next year's summit, right? So next year is supposed to be the biggest, the baddest, the most probably full of so much to offer everyone. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and you're saying next year, but it's actually this year.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes.
It's less than 200 days away, and we are full-blown summit planning. And the same thing, as I mentioned, committees. We have a summit planning committee that comes together, and they represent carriers and service providers and brokers. And we say, okay, let's take a look at what everyone asked for before. Like, what do they want to hear more of? And then what are we seeing right now in the industry? Like, what's this year's theme? And we're starting to see a theme unfold just naturally in our planning discussions of we're trying to plan for the future, transferring wealth to the various different generations. We're looking at things like liability, what's happening with cyber and the advancements of that. How do we prepare clients and brokers for this? And then we look at it from other tools that we need of advancing women in insurance to our DEI initiatives with our DEI organization, bringing in young talent. So you're going to see a number of different factors at this year's summit that is such a good building block from the one we had last year in Chicago. So we're hoping to see about 700 attendees between our brokers, carriers, and service providers. So it'll be our biggest one on record.
Amazing.
So don't make me wrong, industry. August 1, registration opens.
Okay, so August 1, registration begins.
Yeah, registration begins. Yeah.
And the event is, we have dates, right?
Yeah, the event is October 28th to the 30th. So right now we're just trying to watch the football and baseball schedule just to make sure we're not conflicting, because our location will be at the Lowe's Arlington Hotel, which sits between the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers Stadium.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that will make a difference.
Yeah, but we have over 650 hotel rooms available for attendees. So we've secured that piece of it. But the experience in general, just to be able to network, collaborate, go through the educational topics, it's going to be incredible.
I love it.
We're very excited.
I've been there, and it is amazing. It's a great caliber of professionals. And like you had said, everyone is putting their differences aside, and
yes,
you could see the willingness to collaborate on how to make things better, what tools are out there to help everyone to be able to really serve the client in this tumultuous economic insurance world that we're living in right now. And, it feels like it's going to be kind of tumultuous for the next few years. So why not jump in now? And for those of you that are members, I'd love to see you there. But for those that have never heard of PRMA, consider either your organization or you as a broker or as an agent to really get involved, because you can really, when you're there, I promise you, when you're there at the summit, you could just feel. You can feel what's happening, and it's pretty passionate when you have so many professionals out there that really have so much expertise to give and provide. And that's the other thing too, Diane, is you bring some really, really big hitters to the table. This last year's event was amazing with the topics, the keynote speakers, the panels were awesome, full of a lot of information. So thank you for really knocking it out of the park, because now you set the bar so high. Every year you're gonna have to raise the bar yourself.
I know, that's what keeps me up at night, is how do we make it better? But even this year, I mean, we hope to see you guys in the exhibitor hall, and we have a ton of space for service providers that are bringing new tools to these brokers and carriers and clients. So we're going to have a packed exhibitor hall this year.
I love it.
I loved what you said before too, because we went into last year, it was a tough time in the industry, and we didn't know if it was going to be doom and gloom, where you put 600 insurance professionals in the room and it becomes this session where we talk about where are we going? Where is there hope? But it was such an opposite. And I think from the moment we kicked off with Nicole Malachowski for the keynote, I mean, just the vibe in the room, it was just incredible. And I only expect it to go higher this year.
I love it. What I felt personally was this vibration of hope, and then of being able to really be energized to say, hey, there is a good future here. And you could see the energy begin to rise up, and even until the end, like the energy, like the last day people were leaving, like they didn't want it to be over. Like that's how hyped it was. Did you get that?
Yes. So many of us cried. I mean, that last day, if you remember Christos speaking on stage, I mean, there was just people crying left and right. It was it's very hard to explain unless you were there. And that's why this year we're really looking at, and we've just nailed down our theme with my team, but we look at this as being, our industry is limitless, and we need to learn how to navigate the future together. And we're taking those concepts and bringing it to this year's summit.
I love it. Well, Diane, thank you so much for jumping on with us, and thank you for dropping some gold like you often do. And we look forward to another outstanding event. And kudos to you, your team. I know you have a great support team, and with your vision and with everyone else that's collaborating, we look forward to a really, really significant summit, and look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, OP. Appreciate the time. It was an honor.
Is there anything that you want to leave, a message, a note for brokers, for people, for anyone in general, regarding the initial market conditions right now? Is there anything you want to share?
I think it's, and obviously tying to what we do at PRMA, is you don't have to manage this market alone. And you have to know where to go for your resources and your support. And I invite people that feel like they're out there on an island by themselves to just go visit the Private Risk Management Association.org webpage. Just even read what we're all about. I'm not saying you have to join as a member right now, but to realize that there are resources and tools to help you equip to do your job better. And whether it's through PRMA or another organization, I just highly encourage people. The ones that are going to be most successful are the ones that are staying on top of their reading, listening to things like their podcasts. So if they want to move with the industry, they have to figure out the resources to help them do that.
Boom. I love it. I think, overarching in business in general, it's like stay hungry right now, because if you don't have the luxury of taking it easy, really, this is a game right now of like, you got to dig in, stay hungry, go out there and get information. And the beauty is, you said it so well, because a lot of us feel like we're alone out here doing what we have to do. But the reality is there's so much knowledge out there. And with an association like PRMA, because I see the exchanges, and I see the emails that come through, and I see people asking questions. And then I see a competitor answering and saying, hey, have you tried this? Like, okay, that is so cool, and really a world of collaboration, and this is what people need to continue to stay engaged and really get some insight on, wow, I didn't think about that, and now I have a whole nother avenue I can go into. So I love it.
Yeah, it's and that's why I have a really cool role. I'm carrier agnostic, broker agnostic, service provider agnostic. I'd love them all.
I love
need
it.
'em.
I love
Yeah.
it. Well, they've done a great job in putting you in the position where you're at, and you've done a great job
you.
at the helm. So, Diane, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to seeing you at the summit.
I will see you there.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Sophie.
That's all for this episode of All Things Wildfire. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to our show and follow us on social media to stay up to date on all things wildfire. And as always, thanks for listening.